I'm Penny Martin, and I'm delighted that you're all here on a really hot Sunday afternoon. So lean into those fans. We're going to romp through this in 45 minutes, hopefully making space for you to have a question, because I'm Scottish and I'm a real chatterbox, so sometimes I can't rein it in. I'm going to try. Okay, so what is Miu Miu Women's Tales, I hear you ask? Well, it is a series, of course, of short films commissioned biannually by the fashion house Miu Miu. There are now 28 of these, which means we've been doing this for 14 years. Hooray for independent cinema. The directors include incredible list. There are these amazing directories full of biographies and details of all the other films. Pick them up, they're at the back of the room. But they include Ava DuVernay, Chaim Abbas, Dakota Fanning, and so many more. After the latest short, The Miu Miu Affair by Laura Cittarella, premiered here only yesterday. Before I introduce our guests, Molly Gordon and Jasmin Savoy Brown, properly, please remember we've got 45 minutes and store up a nice question. I'm going to be good and make sure you've got space. So, most of us got to know Molly Brown as recently, really, as 2023, when she lit up the small screen as Claire Dunlap, or Claire Bear, in the award-winning FX series, The Bear. And so many good roles in the big screen preceded that, that you're going to remember, such as the high school adventure Booksmart by Olivia Wilde, the scene-stealing Maya in Emma, is it Seligman's Shiva Baby, through to the mockumentary Theatre Camp last year, really fun, in which she starred alongside Amy Sedaris and Ayo Edebiri as the leader of a kind of theatre camp that's threatened with closure, which was a project that she co-directed and co-wrote, as well as starred in with Nick Lieberman. So we're going to hear a little bit about how that's actually done. It's all a far cry from her previous job waiting at another infamous restaurant, Balthazar. We'll discuss that in a moment, but first, it is my pleasure to introduce the actor, singer, it's all the multi-hyphenates today, and producer, Jasmin Savoy Brown, who is, of course, renowned for her fantastic turn as Thaisa in the survival mystery drama Yellow Jackets. She's also known to us as Mindy Meeks Martin. It's a sort of exercise for the lips, in the 5th and 6th installments of the horror collection Scream. But the eagle-eyed Miu Miu fans will know her from the runway in the most recent autumn-winter show. Is that right? We've got that correct. That is, of course, the basis of the wardrobe in Laura Cittarella's Women's Tale. So it's all very sewn up here. It's been a whirlwind few years for Jasmin, and we're and we're eager to hear what's next. So let's sort of get to the very beginning and the reason that knits us together literally, which is, of course, Miu Miu Women's Tales. And I'm interested to know how you knew about it, and had you seen any of the films, and do you have any favourites? Or
Yeah, you know, I became familiar with Miu Miu Women's Tales from getting involved with Miu Miu, and I'm just a big fan of so many of the filmmakers. Janiska is incredible, and
Janissa Bravo did The House Comes with a Bird. Is that right?
I think so.
That's maybe about four seasons back.
Yeah, and I just think it's such a wonderful and incredible program, giving women the opportunity to fully take the lead and interpret things as they will, and I'm just honored to be here.
What about you? What are the challenges of a sort of short film? Have you been involved in a short film before, and how does it strike you as a kind of opportunity? Interested in directing one?
Well, I feel very lucky to be here. I've been nerding out about women's tales since for like 10 years. I feel it hasn't been 10 years. Has it been not? Okay, thank God. It's been 14 years, so it's been 10 years. I just think any fashion brand that is lifting up female directors is absolutely incredible in a time where making art is so fragile. And yeah, couldn't even name one. I think so many are so specific and weird and fantastic. And I've always wanted to come here, so I feel so lucky. I've always wanted to direct one. But
Noted.
but yeah, I think a short is like a beautiful medium, and I think people don't make them as much anymore because now it used to be so hard to get a camera, but now that we have iPhones, I feel like people sometimes will just make a full feature, but a short is such a fun way to explore and try something out before you take something on in a larger way. And we made a short with Theater Camp.
Did you?
Mm-hmm. No one saw it, and it still took a long time to get made. But I think, having a proof of concept in that way is really important. And I think just having like a 20 minutes of something is, especially with our shorter kind of brain, we all can't pay attention to something for as long now, and we should push ourselves to pay attention for longer. But it's still beautiful to have something really. That has a true beginning and end that is in shorter form, that isn't just a TikTok.
Well, I don't know if you knew this, but in fact, 2 of the series have actually been developed into features. There's one in process at the moment. Shakomako, I think, is being developed into a feature. That's Haley Gates's film. But prior to that, Crystal Moselle, also her short got developed into a feature, I think slightly different, called Skate Kitchen. So there's actually amazing examples already in the series of it coming on to being something else. And obviously this morning, where we were interviewing the directors of the 2 most recent films, and they're the first martial arts and mystery genre films in the series. Of course, we're talking about directors and directing, and I know that's something that we'll come on to with you, but obviously what unites you both is your roles in front of the camera, and I'm interested to hear now a little bit about that process when you're more often in front of the screen. We'll come to directing in a moment. In your multi-award nominated film, Theater Camp, what struck me as amazing was a lot was improvised. How on earth did that work?
I came up doing improv, and I did Groundlings as a kid, and I just love.
Do you want to explain to the audience what Groundlings is?
Groundlings is, I also just want to say that I'm sweating. I'm putting it out there.
We all are.
My ass is so sweaty. Groundlings is an amazing sketch comedy and improv organization. Will Ferrell and Kristen Wiig and amazing Melissa McCarthy has come out of that program, and I grew up in Los Angeles, and I did it as a kid, and children's improv is so embarrassing, and I would turn everything into a love scene. Even if someone did a scene where it was like, hey, I'm your mom, I'd be like, do you want to come over later? And they were like, no, that's just your mom, don't flirt with them. I love improv. I think film making is beautiful when there are guardrails and the script is really tight, but there's also something really incredible that happens when you let something happen in the moment. And my favorite filmmakers like Robert Altman or John Cassavetes use improv in a way to kind of catch these magic, whimsical, weird moments. And obviously my film is very silly, but I think even improv in a serious piece can be really beautiful because it's just like honest. It's almost sometimes when like a take goes wrong and you let it keep going, and then you find something interesting, like your shoe comes off, and then you keep rolling and you see what happens from that.
Well, you used the words catch the moment, but how functionally can that happen? Is it a case of kind of screening back through all the edit material and then seeing if there's something there, rather than being able to control like a director might?
Yeah, well, with Theater Camp, we shot 360, so we could just keep going, and we would sometimes roll for like 45 minutes, and the edit was so crazy, and it was more like we had an archive of footage, like a documentary that we were editing, but I won't probably do another movie that way for a long time. But yeah, it's a lot of times you can't keep going because, you haven't, the lighting is not set up on the other side of the room. But yeah, it's fun when the camera can just keep following the chaos of what's happening.
And they also say you should never work with children or animals, and yet you had amazing chemistry with children on that set.
Amazing chemistry with children. So it was what people say about me.
Could be worse.
So yeah, I love working with kids. No one fucking wanted to give us money for this children's film, but I think that kids are so uninhibited and free, and it's so hard to get yourself to just be a real person on camera, and kids can so tap into that. So I loved it, and I felt like I learned so much from them, and they were amazing. And yeah, now I just have to make my next movie with a lot of dogs.
Even it up.
Yeah.
You've had amazing success with Yellow Jackets. Can you tell us a little bit about the role of Teen Thaisa Turner, another tongue twister?
Yeah, I like
You
the
only
tongue
do-
twister names.
How did it come to you, and how did you go about developing that?
You know, it's so funny as an actor. I wonder if you relate to this. I'll get an audition and I'll prepare so hard, and I'm like, I want this so bad, and I never get those. And it's the ones like Yellow Jackets where I read it and was like, okay, I'll memorize it in the car on the way there.
100%.
And was like, honestly, kind of grumpy because they were so behind, and I was about to get a ticket that I just went in and like did it, and it was perfect for the character, because I think I showed up as me with all that I was on that day.
Well, come on then, describe it for someone that's not seen it.
Oh, well, if I mention the cannibalism, maybe I should say it's not all me. That part I don't identify with. So it takes place in the 90s. That's the timeline I'm in, and in the present day. And in the 90s, this girls' high school soccer team crashes. Their plane crashes on the way to nationals, and they have to survive cannibalism. And then it flashes forward to those who survived in the present day. And those are incredible actresses. Tawny Cypress and I share the role of Thaisa. And she's a very strong-minded, independent lesbian. We're a lot alike.
So that's you when you're grumpy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But you've said in reviews, haven't you, that you feel that politically, with a small p, that's really important. That it's not just about showing the kind of biddable and amenable parts of a woman's personality, that you feel it's really important that you see the kind of, well, perhaps not cannibalism necessarily, but the kind of brutal or harder elements that are in the program. Can you say something about that?
Yeah, I think that's what Yellow Jackets does so well. And other shows, I'm thinking of Under the Bridge, speaking of child teen actors. That is a show created by...
I don't know what that is. What's that?
It was on Hulu, and it was by Quinn Shepard. She created the show, and it's a true story of a murder in a Canadian town, but a murder between a high school girl was murdered by her classmates. And it's similar in that it's exploring female rage and brutality alongside the lighter stuff, but how often do we get to see teen girls just be teen girls and not what we say teen girlhood means? When you strip away gender roles and you strip away the opposite sex and you strip away the hierarchy of high school, what happens? And a lot happens.
Well, this is one of the kind of themes in the Women's Tales series, that as diverse and kind of multifarious as it is, it's got a single provocation, hasn't it? Mrs. Prada sends a woman director off to make a film about femininity. And, you know, in the 14 years they've been making them and we've been discussing them, of course, that discussion has become equally diverse, etc. So I'm talking to two young women, and I wonder what aspects of your femininity you don't feel you've had a chance to explore or embrace on film yet, and you might like to. What kind of roles do you feel have evaded you so far that you'd like to take on as a woman?
I love that question.
It was quite long, wasn't it?
But it's a great question. In my career, I feel like I haven't gotten to be insane. Like I've gotten to play angry and murderous, but not insane, which can be quite funny and also liberating. Like to be unhinged in a way that only women can. Do you know what I mean by that?
100%. I'm shooting a movie right now where that's about a couple that go on a trip together, and I play the girl and Logan Lerman plays the guy, and on the first night together we're having a beautiful time, and then we have a conversation, and he realizes that we are in a relationship and he didn't know that, and I realize that he didn't know that, and then I hold him hostage, and that's been really fun. We're in the middle of shooting that, but it's been fun to get to lean into what you're speaking of, like the more insane, dare I say, crazy parts of myself. But it's always like, if I was 5% crazier, I would probably do them. And are women pushed to be crazy, or actually just in our normal state, why can't we just sometimes have larger emotions?
Exactly. I think maybe the word isn't insane or crazy. It's unrestricted. Mm-hmm. Unrestricted, and if the magnifying glass was removed, who would we actually be?
Yeah, and I think sometimes those roles are only given to men because they're deemed as unlikable. But
we want to be unlikable too.
Totally. I feel like so many of my friends, in their most manic moments, I still love them, and I hope that they still love me, my girlfriends. So I hope that there are more roles where women get to lean into that. The more unhinged version of ourselves. I feel like every single one of my female actress friends are craving those roles.
Talking about roles that people must be craving, tell us, we can't avoid the topic of the bear any longer. Tell us about your character of Claire Bear. You only arrived in the second season, and you're the one that Carmi knew before all the madness. Take it away.
I mean, I feel like we can connect on this. It's been really beautiful to be a part of something that people actually watch.
Yeah, it's nice. It's really nice.
So I feel very lucky, and I got to join something that already had eyes on it and success. But Chris, who created the show, is just such a lovely human being, and he has shown everyone that your workplace can be beautiful, and I hope that people continue to learn from the way that he leads, and I'm just trying to soak up all the beauty that he emanates, because he's an amazing director and leader. Getting to work on the show has been a dream. Jeremy is an angel, and Io is one of my best friends, so it's just been a really beautiful experience. And, speaking of the kind of... I just hit the microphone. Sorry, sitting with that, sweating it off. I struggle in my life with like a work-life balance, and I feel like that's what Carmi is. That's kind of his main thing, is he doesn't know how to let in love and care about the restaurant at the same time and work through his family trauma. He can't integrate all of those things at the same time, and I really struggle as a person to, to have relationships and to work and all these. It's so human. That's like, for the rest of our lives, we'll have to navigate that. So I love getting to have a storyline that explores that.
It's a kind of interesting phenomenon, isn't it? Because beyond all the storytelling and the kind of amazing performances and things like that, it's being regarded as a very important, like an epic poem. Like, people are treating specific episodes as if they're, stories in themselves, and people are starting to refer to the episodes by their titles. People know, fishes. People know napkins, etc. And that's quite unusual for a televisual product at this stage. Sure, people remember the suitcase from Mad Men or certain ones from Sopranos, but that often happens afterwards, when people have really digested the box set. Why do you think this is happening?
I think Chris and Joanna, and it's just a really good group of people making art from such a soulful place. And I think a lot of people want to make art in that way, but they're not allowed to. And I feel like we're just watching like a jazz musician get to flow, and it's really working. And FX has let them do what they want. And, but yeah, it's also just all the characters feel very lived in and real, and they give every character a chance to soar. And I don't know, but it's nothing I've done. It's all them. And I hope I don't want to live in a world where like television is this thing that's just like the same kind of carbon copy over and over and over again. I think obviously your show is such a great example of that. It's like they're like people want to watch weird stuff. Like Fishes is an hour and a half of people yelling at each other. Like that's very weird.
You queued up my question. Jazz music. You released a song. Was it last year? Year before last? Is that something that's a kind of ongoing strand? I'd love to hear all the other things that are happening in your creative life alongside a hard won job.
There's a lot going on. Yeah, music has always been my heart in a way that it really scares me, in a way that acting doesn't scare me as much as music.
Which is more exposing?
Yeah, because when I'm playing a character, I'm hiding within them, you know? But when I write music, it's just me. And so I've put it off for a long time because I love it so much. But I finally recorded an EP. I was fortunate enough to become friends with Lucy Dacus, who's one of my favorite singers.
Oh my God, she's so great.
She's incredible. And I got to be in her music video for Night Shift, which is one of my favorite songs. And through that, I met her producers. And so I just recorded music with them, which is exciting. But I'm also now producing all my music videos. And I'm trying to work with at least 80% women. Do you direct music videos, Molly Gordon?
I would love to direct a music video.
Well, we'll have to talk. So that's exciting. I'm probably going to release that music top of next year. And I'm getting into producing. Right now, I'm really focused on podcasts because that's a space that's more financially easy to get into. But my kind of POV in the world, I'm from Oregon, which is a very specific place in the States. It's very white, it's very Christian, and I love everyone that raised me, and it just gave me a very specific perspective on the world because I was always the only in a room, whether that was the only black girl or the only queer person or the only et cetera. And through my experience there and moving to LA and becoming an adult, I've just realized that I just want, the core of it all is spreading joy.
So we're talking about the Homo Schedule here.
Well, so that I was very proud of. That was a podcast formerly titled The Gay Agenda, then renamed The Homo Schedule, and I produced it.
We should say, I mean, it's a big deal. It's Netflix's first LGBTQIA+ podcast.
Yeah.
How can that be?
Thank you. I know, very surprising, right? I co-hosted that with Liv Hewson, who also plays my girlfriend on Yellow Jackets, and that was really fun, but it quickly died, unfortunately. But I'm back out in the world right now taking meetings on 3 other podcasts.
But don't you love a podcast that comes to an end? There's nothing worse than the ones that drag on
for too long.
And nobody's interested by the end of them. You want a kind of succinct, something to say and stop.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well,
that's a good point. But yeah.
Well then, come on. Your audio life and your acting life, do they ever co-mesh? I wonder. I met an actor, Vicky Creeps, this year, and she told me for each of her characters, she makes a playlist in order to musically kind of get to know her characters. Is that something you've ever tried? Would you? Can you imagine it working?
I've done that before. Yeah, it depends on the character. It depends on the day. I'm not an actor that does the same thing every time. It really depends on where I am, where the character is, where we're meeting.
So who was it you used it for, and what was in it?
I used it for season 1 of Yellow Jackets. Spoiler alert, something bad happens episode 7 and my character's heartbroken, and that was just so intense to film that I trained my body to always cry when I heard a certain song so I could put it on and it would get me right into that sad place.
Tears.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of music, I can't let it pass that you were at Charlie XCX's birthday party. How did that happen?
I just told this story. Honestly, my stylist Jared, who's in the room, and my friend Owen just brought me, and Charlie is amazing, and I feel so lucky that I was there. I happened to be in more photos than I had a sunburn, and I was wearing sunglasses and a big shirt to block my sunburn, and I happened to be in way too many photos with those sunglasses and that big shirt. It's obviously a brat summer, and my ass is sweating.
Can you do the apple dance?
I can do the apple dance. the Gen Z PAs on this movie that I just shot made me do it every single morning, and we had really early mornings. So I have about 30 apple dances from 4 a.m. that could become
Incredible.
a short film that I could try to premiere at Venice, but we'll see.
Jasmin, I don't want to let because we've covered your podcast, but I want to also just talk a little bit about roles and kind of power, I guess, and position, because I'm aware that kind of maybe unlike my generation, your generation, are very happy to assume directorial roles and production roles and not just wait for 15 years for it to maybe happen kind of thing. I'm aware that, of course, you co-hosted the Homo Schedule, but before that, you were a producer in a documentary, weren't you? Queer for Fear, is that right?
Yes.
And I know you mentioned this kind of whole idea about the queer agenda, but I'm interested to know what your actual role as producer involved.
Yeah, that was a really good experience. So I was invited to come in as an interview, and Brian Fuller approached me to direct one of the episodes. And I was very honored but didn't feel prepared, but said, but I'd love to produce because I have a lot of ideas and I know a lot of people. So I, in the end, reached out to a lot of the people they ended up also having on as interviews and just gave a lot of feedback on topics and conversations and helped shape a couple of the episodes, which was a wonderful experience. And I met Nay Bever, who also produced, and now we are taking a podcast out together. It is called Today in Gay, and it is a daily queer news podcast, similar to Up First, like NPR, but it's only queer news and a lot of good news. If anyone wants a meeting, give me a call.
And did you change your mind about directing?
I would like to direct eventually, but I'm going to go by way of first producing.
Yeah, sure. Your sort of multi-hyphenate experience on theatre camp can't have put you off additional roles. I see you're not only shooting just now, but you're up to recreate Outrageous Fortune, aren't you? Small Parts is due for next year. Can you tell us anything about that? What will your role at least be?
It's been really. I love that movie, and I love Bette Midler, and getting to reimagine a movie from the 80s is really fun, and I just want to create really funny, iconic roles for women, and I think all of the projects that I want to make as a filmmaker, I don't want all of them to just be like comedies, but I do want them to have humor in some way, because I just feel like the world is in too dark a place to not infuse a little bit of silliness into even the more serious world. But yeah, it's been fun, and I feel so lucky that I get to maybe direct again. It was really, I think it's really hard to get a movie made. And so even like being at this festival and kind of seeing the energy around the screenings, it's like filmmakers are just so excited that they even made it there. Like, we lost our financing for theater camp like the week before we even started shooting. Like, it's so hard to get independent films made. So I just feel lucky that I might get to do it again.
So what is it, do you think? You know, obviously you're both enjoying an enormous amount of success in front of the camera, and I can hear the challenge of these different roles, but what do you think it is about actually getting to develop them that appeals to you, that you would put that amount of time in? Because surely it's enormously time-consuming. What are you getting out of it?
I think that as an actor, you sometimes have to wait around for people to give you a chance to be creative, and I feel like if you're a creative soul, you don't want to wait around for that, and you want to always be curious about the world and pushing yourself forward. And a lot of the actor's life is like rejection and waiting around for things, and people going, now you can act and now you can do something, because we're all freelance. Like, just because you had a job doesn't mean you're going to have another job. So I feel like so many friends that I have that are actors are like, I also do ceramics, or I also do music, or I also want to write, or like, it's Yeah, and I feel lucky that we live in a time where that's more celebrated and people aren't pushed into one box.
I agree. And I think on top of that, as women, part of what draws us, or at least draws me to development, is the power. I feel like so often I'm on a set and I can see how to fix 10 things and how to make them go better, whether that is logistics or a creative thing or a note or like, why don't you just move the camera here or whatever. But you can't, as an actor, if you offer that opinion, often you're looked over or scoffed at, especially as a woman on set. So to have the power to like make things run better and look better is always fun.
So in order to get that support when you're developing those projects, is there any pressure to kind of respond to hot topics? And, you know, what are the hot topics? Or rather, what are the issues that are important to you to make sure are part of the agendas of films? Yeah, why did I turn to you?
Well, you know what's funny is that made me think of a scene in Hannah Einbinder and Jean Smart's show. What is that called again?
Hacks?
In Hacks, yeah, where Hannah's agent is telling her like the hot scripts she could write, and it's like, what are you talking about? Just because that's hot right now doesn't mean it's going to be
in 7
hot
years' time
tomorrow.
when this thing gets made.
Yeah, so I think it's about having a team around you that really believes in you and will push for you no matter what, because the thing that's true to you might not be what's selling right now. But it's just like The Bear or Yellow Jackets. Before it existed, it didn't exist, and no one could have conceptualized what it was. And now everyone's going to try to make shows like these, but you can't again because it was singular. And so you just have to have your passionate, singular idea, get the right people behind you, and then the world will never be the same.
You've said it's really tough. Are there mentors, or do you have somebody at the end of the phone that you go to? In order to like, what now?
Well, I feel so lucky that I've come up with a group of other artists that I can call, and like Io or Emma Seligman, who directed Shiva, I would not have directed like at that age if I hadn't have had that experience and seen someone my age just be brave enough to not wait around for other people to give them an opportunity. So yeah, whether it be Emma or Rachel or Io, it's like, I have so many writer friends. Like, I just feel so lucky. This business is so isolating, and if I didn't have them, yeah. And then Chris from The Bear, like, I worked on Rami many years ago, and he's been a friend for many years. But yeah, I feel like we all just need to talk to each other more and realize that we're not alone, and everyone, and exactly what you're saying, like, how can we help each other not have a bad experience? Like, we can be like, hey, don't work with this person, or speak up in this way, or you know, be yourself, or it's just community is so important.
That's not a bad executive board you've got there. How about for you? Is there anybody specific that you kind of, whether you literally phone them or you kind of conjure their advice to you? But
yeah, I love my team. So in 2020, you know, we were all going through a lot, and I looked at my team and went, why is my team a bunch of white men? And so I fired almost all of them and replaced them with women of color. I'm not kidding. And then Yellow Jackets happened, and then Scream happened, and now my music is happening. And so I just make sure to surround myself with strong women of color, and I can turn to them anytime, whether they're my team or my best friends, and together we're doing a pretty good job.
And I've read you also mention names like Shonda and Regina King, who you must have.
God.
Yeah.
I adore them both. I'm so lucky to have worked with both of them at the beginning of my career, and they are there if I ever need them.
It's just been announced that you will be producing and starring in Oh Hi. Is that shooting right now, in fact?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we both just came from night shoots, so we're sorry for loopy. But yeah, that's the tying up movie that I'm doing.
Oh, sorry,
but,
have I blown the name?
No, it's totally fine. But yeah, it's been fun to get to. Yeah, but that movie I've been developing for 5 years, and it just got made now, so I feel.
Congratulations!
Thank you. It'll fall apart next week, but I feel very lucky. Yeah.
You're from a night shoot. What can you say about that?
Yeah, we're shooting season 3 of Yellow Jackets. It's getting crazy. And I think everyone's going to really enjoy this season.
It's actually, there's a bear crossover on this season of Yellow Jackets.
Yeah.
Where I get eaten by, Claire Bear gets eaten by all of the girls at the same time.
It's a feast.
And then butchered and put in that fridge.
Yeah. And then Carmi cooks it, and he gets so many stars, Michelin stars.
You've also got an upcoming sci-fi project.
Yes, I hope that happens. It's a financing issue. But it has been announced. It's called Green Bank, and I'd be starring in it with Tatiana Maslany, who I am obsessed with. She's one of the reasons I wanted to be an actor, and it's been a dream of mine to work with her. In fact, my very first acting class that I ever sat in on in LA, I was 19, I had just moved here, and she was there working on a monologue, and I went up to her and was like, "You're amazing, you're why I moved to LA, and now we're attached to a movie together." But just like you were saying, we had something, it fell apart. It keeps coming together and falling apart, so I just hope that it works out.
Well, I'm very conscious of time, so I want to ask you one last question before turning over to the floor. Let's finish with a tip. Who, in your opinion, should direct the next Miu Miu Woman's Tale?
Well, Molly Gordon, clearly. I think that's
You don't
the
get that one.
only answer.
Oh, I don't know. I feel like they've made such incredible choices that the team at Miu Miu seems to know. And yeah, I think they've hipped me to so many foreign filmmakers, and I think that they should keep doing what they're doing and never stop. And like, this should be going when the world is ending and we're all underwater from global warming. Women's Tales should still be happening.
Allow me, lastly, to say thank you very much, and please join me to Jasmin, Savoy Brown, and Molly Gordon.